Hello and welcome to another Quarantine Theater Company reading. Tonight we are going to be doing the Academy Award nominated The Tragedy of Shakespeare, the Joel Cohen film. So joining us tonight is actually me. I will be seeing description. We've got Logan. He is going to be our MacBeth. We've got Jared tonight. He's going to be Malcolm, among other characters. Bridget's joining us tonight. Yay, Bridget. Welcome. She is going to be our Lady Macbeth, amongst others. We also have Travis. I'm sorry, I apologize ahead of time. He's going to be our King Duncan and others. We have Jennifer with us. Jennifer's going to be playing multiple characters as well, amongst which are like Ross and Donald Bain, and I probably said that wrong. And then last but not least at all, we've got Paul joining us. He is going to be our Banquo and our Seaton and other people. So without further ado, let's get this shit in motion. All right. Macbeth, screenplay by Joel Cohen, based on the play by Shakespeare. All right. William Shakespeare, that is, not Frank Shakespeare. Anyway, black wind, and under the wind a distant tolling of a bell. With the tolling a single word fades up. Win, and repeats twice more. Win. As the last one appears, we hear the voices of three women alternating. This is me. We shall three meet again in thunder, lightning, or in rain, when the hurly-burly's done and when the battle's lost and won. That will be ere the set of the sun. Where the place? Upon the heath, there to meet with Macbeth. Fair is foul and foul is fair, however through the fog and filthy air. Milky white day, fade up with music on a theater curtain. It opens slowly to reveal nothing but milky white from floor to ceiling. From top of the frame, a small black spot descends and starts to describe a circle in the white field. It looks like a faraway bird arcing down from above. As the bird completes a circle, the white fog behind it slowly blows away to reveal an even tinier, what appears to be a man, defying gravity, walking up the far wall at the back of the stage. We realize we are looking down from above. Cut to exterior beach, a low angle looking across the beach. The tents of Duncan's encampment can be seen on the rise in the distance as the last of the fog blows away. The man, the captain, enters the foreground and recedes towards the tents, dripping a trail of blood. He walks with difficulty as he looks up from the tents into the sky overhead. His POV, against a background of painted clouds, a raven circles overhead, waiting for him to die. It is joined by two others.
Hail, brave friend.
Exterior Duncan's encampment. Push in on Malcolm standing in the encampment next to Duncan the king.
Say to the king the knowledge of the broil as thou didst leave it.
Doubtful it stood, as two spent swimmers that do cling together and choke their art. The merciless MacDonald, with fortune on his damned coral smiling, showed like a rebel's whore, but all's too weak. For brave Macbeth, well, he deserves that name, disdaining fortune with his brandished steel, which smoked with bloody execution, like valor's minion carved out his passage till he faced the slave, which ne'er shook hands nor bade farewell to him, till he unseamed him from the nave to the chops, and fixed his head upon our battlements.
Oh, valiant cousin, worthy gentleman!
Behind Malcolm and Duncan, warriors are gathering.
No sooner justice had with valor armed, compelled these skipping kerns to trust their heels, but the Norwegian lord, surveying vantage with furbished arms and new supplies of men, began a fresh assault.
Dismay not this, our captains, Macbeth and Banquo?
Yes, as sparrows eagles, or the hare the lion, so they doubly redoubled strokes upon the foe. I cannot tell.
captain sinks to his knees. Behind him we see Ross and a soldier approaching.
But I am faint. My gashes cry for help.
As he is assisted off, Ross walks into a close-up.
God save the king.
Whence camest thou, worthy Thane?
From Fife, great king, where the Norwegian banners flout the sky and fan our people cold. Norway himself, with terrible numbers, assisted by that most disloyal traitor, the Thane of Cawdor, began a dismal conflict till that Bellona's bridegroom, brave MacBeth, confronted him with self-comparisons, point against point, rebellious arm against arm, curbing his lavish spirit, and to conclude, the victory fell to us.
Great happiness.
No more! The Thane of Cawdor shall deceive our bosom interest. Go pronounce his present death.
I'll see it done.
And with his former title, greet MacBeth.
Wind. Duncan looks to the sky. The fog has blown back in. Duncan and Malcolm turn, walk away towards the tents, and are swallowed by the fog. Exterior beach, battlefield. A corpse-littered beach. The bodies of Norwegian soldiers, half buried in the sand. The first which starts to rummage a body, his eyes pecked out as if by a bird. Where hast thou been, sister? Oh, killing swine! Sister, where art thou? Oh, look what I have! Show me, show me! Here I have a sailor's thumb, wrecked as homeward he did come. A drum, Macbeth doth come. Oh, in a sea I'll thither sail, and like a rat without a tail, I'll do. Oh, I'll give thee a wind, thou'rt kind, and I another. I myself of all the other, I'll drain him dry as hay. Sleep shall neither night nor day hang upon his print house lid. He shall live a man forbid. Wearisome nights 9 times 9 shall he dwindle and peak and pine. The weird sisters, hand in hand, posters of the sea and land, thus do go about, thrice to thine and thrice to mine, and thrice again to make up 9. Peace, the charms wound up. Distantly off.
So foul and fair a day I have not seen.
Slowly push in on the 3 witches. They freeze, standing together, waiting for Macbeth to emerge from the fog.
How far is it to the forays?
As Banquo and Macbeth approach.
What are these so withered and so wild in their attire, that look not like the inhabitants of the earth, and yet are on't? Live you, or are you aught that man may question?
Speak if you can. What are you?
We hear the screech of a bird, then finding her voice. All hail, Macbeth, hail to thee, thy Thane of Glamis. All hail, Macbeth, hail to me, Thane of Cawdor. All hail, Macbeth, that shall be king hereafter.
Good sir, why do you start and seem to fear things that do sound so fair? If you can look into these seeds of time and say which grain will grow and which will not, speak then to me, who neither beg nor fear your favors nor your hate.
Lesser than Macbeth and greater, not so happy, yet much happier. Thou shalt get kings, though be none. So all hail Macbeth and Banquo. Banquo and Macbeth, all hail. Macbeth advances as the witches back away into the fog.
Stay, you imperfect speakers, tell me more. I know I am Thane of Glamis, but how of Cawdor? Thane of Cawdor lives, a prosperous gentleman, and to be king stands not with prospect of belief, but no more than to be Cawdor. Say from whence you owe this strange intelligence, or why upon this blasted heath you stop your way with such prophetic greetings. Speak, I charge you.
The earth hath bubbles as the water has, and they are of them. Whither are they vanished?
Turning from the wall of fog to Banquo.
Into the air in what seemed corporal melted as breath from the wind. Would they had stayed?
With a screech, 3 blackbirds burst from the fog behind MacBeth and rocket overhead, flapping their wings. MacBeth ducks as Banquo pivots to watch them fly away.
Were such things here as we do speak about? Or have we eaten on the insane root that takes the reason prisoner?
Your children shall be kings,
You shall be king.
and Thane of Cawdor too. Went it not so?
Looking apprehensively to the sky.
The self-same tune and words.
Fade out. We hear the rhythmic spattering of rain on canvas and the distant rumble of thunder. The thunder turns into the ominous rumble of a horse's hooves approaching. Over black, a title fades up. The tragedy of Macbeth. We hear a voice. Who goes there? I don't know whose voice that is. Interior, exterior, Macbeth's tents encampment night. Close on Macbeth's eyes, startled open from sleep. Standing over Macbeth are Ross and Angus, underlit by firelight. We are inside the canvas tent.
The king hath happily received, Macbeth, the news of thy success, and when he reads thy personal venture in the rebels' fight, his wonders and his praises do contend which should be thine or his.
We are sent to give thee from our royal master thanks, only to herald thee into this night, not pay thee.
Macbeth struggles up from his pallet into his elbows. Banquo waits in the far corner of the tent.
I'm sorry, I got distracted. And for an earnest of a greater honor, he bade me from him call thee Thane of Cawdor, in which addition hail, most worthy Thane, for it is thine.
What, can the devil speak true?
Thane of Cawdor lives. Why do you dress me in borrowed robes?
Who is the Thane lives yet.
He indicates the open entrance to the tent. Outside, under the guard, the Thane of Cawdor kneels outside.
But under heavy judgment bears that life which he deserves to lose.
Ross and Angus start to withdraw from the tent.
Whether he was combined with those of Norway, or did line the rebel with hidden help and vantage, or that with both he labored in his country's wrack, I know not.
Still speaking as he approaches the prisoner, Ross unscabbards his sword.
But treason's capital confessed and proved have overthrown him.
Macbeth has approached the entrance to the tent to peer out. Ross has raised his sword over the prisoner, but pauses. He turns towards the tent, cradling the blade. He offers it to Macbeth.
Thanks for your pains. Glamis and Thane of Cawdor, the greatest is behind.
He turns to Banquo after a pause.
Do you not hope your children shall be kings, when those that give the Thane of Cawdor to me promise no less to them?
That trusted home might yet enkindle you unto the crown, besides the Thane of Cawdor. But 'tis strange, and oftentimes to win us to our harm, the instruments of darkness tell us truths, win us with honest trifles, to betray us in deepest confidence.
Banquo leaves, alone now.
This supernatural soliciting cannot be ill, cannot be good. If ill, why hath it giveth me an earnest of success, commencing in the truth?
Crossing the tent to sit at a small camp table.
I am Thane of Cawdor. If good, why do I yield to that suggestion, whose horrid image doth unfix my hand, make my seated heart knock at my ribs? Against the use of nature, present fears are less than horrible imaginings. My thoughts, whose murder yet is but fantastical, shakes so my single state of man that function is smothered in surmise, and nothing is but what is not.
His attention is taken by a scuffle and raised voices outside.
Chance will have me king, why? Chance may crown me without my stir.
and then reaches for a piece of rolled paper and a quill pen. The wind returns, rattling the canvas of the tent all around him like a different kind of thunder.
Come what come may, time and the hour runs to the roughest day.
Close on his hand as he unrolls the paper as we move into its blank whiteness, filling the screen. The white parchment dissolves to the texture of a white wall. Once more, the distant tolling of a bell. Then a woman's voice.
They met me in the day of success, and I have learned that by the perfectest's report, they have more in them than mortal knowledge.
Forgot I had to speak. I took a bite. Interior, Inverness. Oh, I've been there. Lady Macbeth's hall and bedchamber. Night. Not into her bedchamber, just to Inverness. A dark shadow of a woman walking, holding a piece of paper, enters from the right, crossing the wall. We pan off the wall into blackness to discover Lady Macbeth, emerging from the shadows, reading from the parchment that she holds on her hand, looking like she's angry, just interrupted from a shower.
When I burned in desire to question them further, they made themselves air, into which they vanished. Whilst I stood wrapped in the wonder of it, came missives from the king, who all hailed me Thane of Cawdor, by which title before these weird sisters saluted me and referred me to the coming on of time with "Hail, King that shalt be." This have I thought good to deliver thee, my dearest partner of greatness, that thou mightest not lose the dues of rejoicing by being ignorant of what greatness is promised thee. Lay it to thy heart, and farewell.
She walks to a candle and dips the corner of the letter into the flame.
Glamis thou art, and Cawdor, and shalt be what thou art promised. Yet do I fear thy nature. It is too full of the milk of human kindness to catch the nearest way.
She walks towards the door to the balcony as the flame slowly curls up the parchment, underlighting her face and leaving a translucent ash.
Thou wouldst be great, art not without ambition, but without the illness should attend it. What thou wouldst highly, that wouldst thou holily, wouldst not play false, and yet wouldst wrongly win.
Close on Lady Macbeth on the balcony, now lit by the moon, her prospect shows only the heath far below us and the stars.
Hie thee hither, that I may pour my spirits in thine ear, and chastise with the valour of my tongue all that impedes thee from the golden round.
Pardon me. Behind her, across the room, we see a door open, and she is backlit by a shaft of light close on the candle. A draught of air from the open door carries the flaming letter into the wind.
Is execution done or on Condor?
You added like 5 extra syllables to whatever that
Cursed.
sentence was. No, that's just you, Travis, my dear. Exterior Duncan's encampment night. The only curse here lies with Travis. The royal encampment close on Ross conferring with Malcolm. Malcolm breaks off and approaches the king.
My liege, I have spoke with the one that saw him die, who did report that very frankly he confessed his treasons, implored your highness' pardon, and set forth a deep repentance.
Nothing in his life became him like the leaving it. He died as one that had been studied in his death, to throw away the dearest thing he owed, as 'twere a careless trifle.
No art to find the mind's construction in the face. He was a gentleman on whom I built an absolute trust.
His attention is drawn to Macbeth and Banquo, who approach and kneel.
Oh, worthiest cousin, the sin of my ingratitude even now was heavy on me. Only I have left to say, more is thy due than more than all I can pay.
Service and the loyalty I owe in doing it pays itself.
Welcome hither. I have begun to plant thee and will labor to make thee full of growing.
He gestures for them to rise.
Noble Banquet, that hast no less deserved, nor must be known, no less to have done so. Let me unfold thee and hold thee to my heart.
There if I grow, the harvest is your own.
My plenteous joys, wanton in fullness, seek to hide themselves in drops of sorrow.
Gesturing for the assembled troops to approach, he draws Malcolm close to him.
Sons, kingsmen, thanes, and you whose places are the nearest, known will be established our state upon our eldest, Malcolm, whom we name hereafter the Prince of Cumberland.
This surprises Macbeth.
Which honor must not unoccupied invest him only, but signs of nobleness, like stars, shall shine on all deservers.
Turning to Macbeth.
From hence to Inverness, and bid us further to you.
I'll be myself to the harbinger and make joyful the hearing of my wife with your approach. So, humbly take my leave.
He turns to leave, and we pull him as he walks away from the encampment.
My worthy Cawdor, let's after him, whose care is gone before to bid us welcome. It is peerless kingsman.
Prince of Cumberland, there's a step on which I must fall down or else o'erleap. For in my way it lies. Stars, hide your fires. Let not light see my black and deep desires.
Interior Inverness, Lady Macbeth's bedchamber, night. Lady Macbeth, just as we left her, turns from the balcony towards the open door behind her, the blown-out candle still in her hand. Lady Macbeth, gentlewoman, Lady Vivian, stands in the doorway.
What is your tidings?
The king comes here tonight.
Thou art mad to say it. Is not thy master with him? Who, were't so, would have informed for preparation?
So please you, it is true. Our Thane is coming. One of my fellows had the speed of him, who, almost dead for breath, had scarcely more than would make up his message.
Give him tending. He brings great news.
She shuts the door and leans against it, looking across the room at the balcony. With a distant cry, and the blackbird flies across the opening and disappears in the moonlit clouds.
The raven himself is hoarse, that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlements.
She crosses the room into the moonlight and sits on the bed.
Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here and fill me from the crown to the toe top full of direst cruelty. Make thick my blood, stop up the access and passage to remorse. Let no compunctions visitings of nature shake my fell purpose, nor keep peace between the effect and it. Come to my woman's breasts and take my milk for gall, you murdering ministers, wherever in your sightless substances you wait on nature's mischief. Come, thick night, and pall thee in the dunnest smoke of hell.
Move into closing on her eyes as they slowly close.
That my keen knife see not the wound it makes, nor heaven peep through the blanket of the dark to cry, hold. Hold.
Fade out. Cut to interior Inverness, Lady Macbeth's bedchamber day. Close on Lady Macbeth as she slowly opens her eyes in the dark room. The camera pulls back over the shoulder of Macbeth, who sits on the bed leaning over her. For a long moment, she simply looks up at him.
Great Glamis, worthy Cawdor, greater than both, by the all-hail hereafter.
Macbeth draws her up into an embrace, and we hold her face over his shoulder.
Thy letters have transported me beyond this ignorant present, and I feel now the future in the instant.
My dearest love, Duncan comes here tonight.
And when goes hence?
Tomorrow, as he purposes.
Oh, never shall sun that morrow see. Your face, my Thane, is as a book where men may read strange matters, to beguile the time, look like the time, bear welcome in your eye, your hand, your tongue, look like the innocent flower, and be the serpent under it.
She rises from the bed and starts to unstrap his armor, gently drawing it off his body.
He that's coming must be provided for, and you shall put this night's great business into my dispatch, which shall, to all our nights and days to come, give solely sovereign sway and masterdom.
We will speak further.
Only look up clear. To alter favor ever is to fear. Leave all the rest to me.
Fade out. We hear a bell begins to toll, beating wings and the cry of birds. Exterior Inverness, Lady Macbeth's bedchamber window. Fade in on Lady Macbeth through a window, looking down into the courtyard from a high vantage, reflected in the window to see a flock of birds lifting off a bell tower in the center of the courtyard. Exterior Inverness, courtyard, dusk. We are booming down from a high angle perspective of the window towards the bell tower where Duncan and Banquo are just dismounting from their horses.
This castle hath a pleasant seat.
Close in on Duncan, looking up at the sky.
Nimbly and sweetly, the air nimbly and sweetly recommends itself unto our gentle senses.
The birds settle on the tower as Duncan continues.
This gust of summer, the temple of haunting Martlet, does approve by his loved missionary that heaven's breath smells wooingly here.
Interior Inverness stairs, close tracking on Lady Macbeth's footsteps, hurrying down the stairs. Exterior Inverness courtyard, dusk. Back to Duncan, looking down from a high angle.
No Juddy Fury's buttress, nor Kung of vantage, but this bird hath his pendant bed and Procreant cradle, where they most breed and haunt. I have observed the air is delicate.
Lady Macbeth approaches across the courtyard.
See our honored hostess.
All our service in every point twice done, and then done double, were poor and single business to contend against those honors deep and broad wherewith your majesty loads our house.
Where's the Thane of Cawdor? We coursed him at the heels and had a purpose to be his purveyor.
We see the group now from a distance over the shoulder of Macbeth. He is watching them from a dark corner of the colonnade.
But he rides well, and his great love, sharp, and his spur hath helped him to his home before us.
Sorry. Close on Macbeth, watching Duncan, Banquo, and Lady Macbeth withdraw towards the castle.
Fair and noble hostess, we are your guests tonight. Give me your hand. Conduct me to mine host.
Close on Duncan's hand outstretched, hesitating, her hand enters, and he grasps it. Exterior Inverness courtyard, bell tower night. Slowly we dissolve from the clasped hands to Macbeth's hands as we hear his voice.
If it were done when 'tis done, then 'twere well it were done quickly.
You said that very quickly. He opens them from fist to palm, hard to callous, but scrubbed clean. Distant music has faded up with the sound of merrymaking. He is standing where we left him, but is now night. A light from the distant window fades up on his face, and shadows move across it.
If the assassination could trammel up the consequence and catch with his Cersei's success, that but this blow might be the be-all and the end-all. Here upon this bank and shoal of time, we jump the life to come.
He stands in the dark in the courtyard outside the banquet hall. For the first time, we see him not in his armor, but in his tunic. He turns towards the music in the distant window as we follow him as he approaches it.
But in these cases, we still have the judgment here, that we but teach bloody instructions, which, being taught, return to plague the inventor. This even-handed justice commends the ingredients of our poisoned chalice to our own lips. He's here in double trust. First, as I am his kinsman and his subject, strong both against the deed, then as his host, who should against his murderer shut the door, not bear the knife myself.
Through the window we see dark shapes in silhouette projected and distorted on the imperfect glass.
Besides, this Duncan hath borne his faculty so meek, hath been so clear with his great office, that his virtues will plead like angels, trumpet-tongued against the deep damnation of his taking off.
Close on Macbeth. Shadows cross his face, cast from the merrymakers inside the banquet hall, passing to and fro across the window.
And pity, like a naked newborn babe striding the blast, or heaven's cherubim horsed upon the sightless couriers in the air, shall blow the horrid deed in every eye, that tears shall drown the wind.
Behind him we see a dark form approaching from deeper in the courtyard.
I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition, which o'erlaps itself and falls on the other.
Lady Macbeth touching his shoulder, and he turns to face her.
How now? What news?
He has almost supped.
Hath he asked for me?
Know you not he has?
We will proceed no further in this business. He hath honoured me of late, and I have brought golden opinions from all sorts of people, which would be worn now on the newest gloss, not cast aside so soon.
She draws him away from the window into a darker corner of the courtyard, into the shadows of the bell tower.
Was the hope drunk wherein you dressed yourself? Hath it slept since, and wakes it now to look so green and pale at what it did so freely? From this time such I account thy love. Art thou afeared to be the same in thine own act and valour as thou art in desire? Wouldst thou have that which thou esteemest the ornament of life, and live a coward in thine own esteem, letting I dare not wait upon I would, like the poor cat in the adage?
Prithee, peace. I dare do all that may become a man. Who dares do more is none.
What beast was it then that made you break this enterprise to me? When you durst do it, then you were a man, and to be more than what you were, you would be so much more than a man. I have given suck, and know how tender 'tis to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from his boneless gums and dashed the brains out, had I so sworn as you have done to this.
If we should fail?
We fail, but screw your courage to the sticking place, and we'll not fail. When Duncan is asleep, whereto the rather shall his day's hard journey soundly invite him, his two chamberlains will I with wine and wassail so convince that memory, the water of the brain, shall be a fume, and the receipt of reason a limbeck only. When in swinish sleep their drenched natures lie, as in a death, what cannot you and I perform upon the unguarded Duncan? What not put upon his spongy officers, who shall bear the guilt of our great quell?
Bring forth men children only.
Macbeth,
For thy undaunted mettle should have composed nothing but males. Will it not be received when we have marked with blood those sleepy two of his own chamber, and used their very daggers they have done?
Who dares receive it other? As we shall make our griefs and clamour roar upon his death?
I am settled and bend up, each corporeal agent to his terrible feet. Away, and mock the time with fairest show. False face must hide what the false heart doth know.
Lady Macbeth's footsteps echoing away. The light from the distant window behind him fades out, leaving him standing alone in a shaft of moonlight. Exterior Inverness courtyard, still night. From a distant corner of the courtyard, a voice.
How goes the night, boy?
MacBeth turns his attention to the voices. Fleance, Banquo's son, is entering through the gate, followed by his father. MacBeth backs into the shadow of the bell tower to listen, but not be seen. Close in on Fleance. We are still in the courtyard, but all is quiet now. Beyond the boy, Banquo approaches.
The moon is down. I have not heard the clock.
And she goes down at 12.
I take it 'tis later, sir.
Hold. Take my sword. There's husbandry in heaven. Their candles are all out. Take thee that too. A heavy summons lies like lead upon me, and yet I would not sleep.
MacBeth turns, hearing footsteps approach from the opposite end of the courtyard. A servant holding a torch.
Merciful powers restrain in me the cursed thoughts that nature gives way in repose.
About to be revealed by the approaching torchlight, MacBeth steps out of the shadow to grab the torch, as if he was with the servant, and approaches Banquo with him.
Give me my sword. Who's there?
A friend.
What? Sir, not yet at rest.
MacBeth enters with the servant.
The king's abed. He hath been in unusual pleasure and sent forth great larges to your offices.
Being unprepared, I will become the servant to defect, which else should free have wrought.
All's well. I dreamt last night of the three weird sisters. To you they have showed some truth.
I think not of them. Yet we can entreat an hour. Yet when we can entreat an hour to serve, we should spend it with some words upon the business, if you would grant the time.
At your kindest leisure.
Track in on Fleance is nervously returning Macbeth's stare as he approaches. Macbeth's hand reaches in and tousles his hair.
Could repose the while.
Thanks, sir. The like to you.
Banquo draws his son away as they leave. Macbeth turns to a servant.
Go bid thy mistress when my drink is ready. She strike upon the bell. Get to bed.
The servant leaves. His footsteps fade away, leaving the faintest sound of wind. Macbeth is alone again. Behind Macbeth, the columns of a long colonnade fade up, intersected by moonlight. In exterior Inverness colonnade night, he turns to face down a long colonnade, which ends in a huge oak door to the tower. He moves with purpose towards it, his footsteps echoing off the stones, then slows, noticing something. A faint shaft of light is glancing off the steel handle of the door, still distant and hard to see. The wind disappears, silence, except his footsteps.
Is this a dagger which I see before me? The handle toward my hand? Come, let me clutch thee.
Macbeth's point of view, tracking slowly down the dark colonnade. The glancing light on the distant door handle describes the shape of a knife.
I have thee not, and yet I see thee still. Thou art not, fatal vision, sensible to feeling as to sight. Or art thou but a dagger of the mind, a false creation proceeding from the heat-oppressed brain? I see thee yet in form as palpable as this which now I draw.
Close as he draws a knife from the left sleeve of his tunic.
Thou marshallest me the way that I was going, and such an instrument I was to use. Mine eyes were made the fools of the other senses, or else worth all the rest. I see thee still, and on thy blade and dirgent gouts of blood, which was not so before.
Still advancing, he moves his head towards the side as the light shifts on the handle, changing the effect.
It's the bloody business. Oh, sorry, there is no such thing. It is the bloody business which informs thus to mine eyes. Now o'er the one half-world nature seems dead, and wicked dreams abuse the curtained sleep.
A bell begins to toll in the counterpoint to the rhythm of his footsteps of the stones. He looks up the starry heavens.
Thou share in firm set earth, hear not my steps, which way they walked, for fear thy very stones prate of my whereabouts. I go when it is done. The bell invites me.
He expertly rolls the knife in his hand as we follow the tip of the blade as it makes contact with the door, right next to the handle, and slowly pushes it open into the blackness.
Hear it not, Duncan, for it is a knell. It summons thee to heaven or to hell.
Interior Inverness, Duncan's bedchamber night. Fade in from black, close on Duncan's sleeping eyes. The camera only pulls back over a dark shoulder. Macbeth on the edge of the bed, sitting close and looking down at Duncan as he did with Lady Macbeth. After a long moment, Duncan's eyes slowly open, sensing something. His POV, a dark apparition looming over him. Macbeth raises his forefinger to his lips. Quiet. Only slightly armed, but still confused by sleep, Duncan slowly rises from the pillow. Macbeth puts a reassuring hand on his shoulder and gently pushes him back down. We hear a deep, rhythmic sound of beating wings. Suddenly panicked, Duncan bolts upright, slamming into a close-up over Macbeth's shoulder, as if in an embrace. Macbeth slams him back down onto the bed, raising the knife. Duncan's hand flies up to grab his wrist. As Duncan opens his mouth to scream, Macbeth covers the king's face with his hand. The beating wings grow louder. He presses his hand over Duncan's mouth, over the strains to plunge the knife. Duncan thrashes. He weakens. The knife descends, still thrashing. The wings beating. The knife pricks the skin of Duncan's neck just below the pillow and sinks in. The shriek of a bird. Blood gushes, scouts from his neck, hitting Macbeth. Macbeth rears back, the knife in his hand, as, interior Inverness, Lady Macbeth's bedchamber night. Lady Macbeth sits bolt upright in her bed.
Hark! Peace!
The dark thrum of beating wings recedes.
It was the owl that shrieked, the fatal bellman, which gives the sternest good night. He is about it.
Interior Duncan's bedchamber, intercut with Lady Macbeth's bedchamber. Close on his arms hanging off the bed, we travel down the arm to his limp hand hovering over the floor as a drop of blood descends his finger and hits the floor with a dull thump, and another, and another. Looking down on high from Macbeth, a small figure sits on the bloody bed next to Duncan's body. After a long beat, he rises, the dagger in one hand. We hear the distant rhythmic thumping of the blood as Lady Macbeth continues.
That which hath made them drunk hath made me bold. What hath quenched them hath given me fire.
Still looking down on high, we follow Macbeth, the camera moving over the chandelier with a wheel of birds, then where the grooms lie asleep on the floor.
The doors are open, and the surfeited grooms do mock their charge with snores.
He walks past the sleeping grooms as we move over another door jam as he disappears into the blackness.
I have drugged their possets, that death and nature do contend about them, whether they live or die.
Interior Inverness, Lady Macbeth's bedchamber. Out of the barack, we track in close on Lady Macbeth. The faint thumping continues. She looks down from the ceiling. Footsteps.
Alack, I am afraid they have awaked, and 'tis not done. The attempt, and not the deed, confounds us. Hark! I laid their daggers ready. He could not miss 'em.
They track into the door as the bedchamber as Macbeth enters.
My husband,
I have done the deed.
didst thou not hear a noise?
When?
Now.
As I descended.
Aye.
Hark! This is a sorry sight.
A foolish thought to say a sorry sight.
There's one did laugh and sleep, and one cried murder, that they did wake each other. I stood and heard them, and when they did say their prayers and addressed them again to sleep.
The grooms were lodged together.
One cried, God bless us, and amen the other, as they had seen me with these hangman's hands. Listening their fear, I could not say amen. And they did say, God bless us.
Consider it not so deeply.
But wherefore could I not pronounce amen? I had most need of blessing, and amen stuck in my throat.
These deeds must not be thought after these ways, so it will make us mad.
Methought I heard a voice cry, sleep no more. Macbeth does murder sleep. The innocent sleep, sleep that knits up the ravelled sleeve of care, the death of each man's day, sore labour's bath, balm of hurt minds, great nature's second course, chief nourisher in life's feast.
What do you mean?
Still it cried, sleep no more to all the house. Glamis hath murdered sleep, and therefore Cawdor shall sleep no more. Macbeth shall sleep no more.
Who was it that thus cried? Why, worthy Thane, you do unbend your noble strength to think so brain-sickly of things. Go, get some water and wash this filthy witness from your hand.
Rather, he approaches the bed and sits on it, still holding the dagger.
Why did you bring these daggers from the place? They must lie there. Go carry them and smear the sleepy grooms with blood.
I shall go no more. I am afraid to think what I have done. Look on't again, I dare not.
Lady Macbeth puts her hands on either side of his face.
Infirm of purpose.
She looks down at her hand, now stained with Duncan's blood.
Give me the daggers. The sleeping and the dead are but as pictures. 'Tis the eye of childhood that fears a painted devil.
Taking the daggers and leaving the room.
If he do bleed, I'll gild the faces of the grooms withal, for it must seem their guilt. My hands are of your colour, but I shame to wear a heart so white.
Slow rhythm of thumping has now grown louder, harsher, and more brittle.
Whence is that knocking? How is't with me with every noise appalls me?
He rises, leaving a bloody handprint on the bed, and walks to a pitcher and wash basin, unfolding his clenched hand and plunging it into the basin.
What hands are here? They pluck out mine eyes, with all great Neptune's ocean, wash this blood clean from my hand. No, this my hand will rather the multitudinous seas incarnate, making the green one red.
With a violent swipe, he knocks the basin aside.
To know my deed, 'twere best not know myself.
The bloody waiter washes over the tabletop.
Wake Duncan with
bloody
thy
water.
Wake Duncan with thy knocking, I would thou couldst.
A drop of bloody water falls from the tabletop with a pounding thrum. Hits the floor below. The camera descends through the floor, down through the darkness to interior Inverness Porter's room. Night, dawn. Close on the porter, raising his head from a table in a small room where he's passed out from carousing the night before. The pounding continues. He stumbles to his feet, holding his skull as if the sound is in his head.
Here's a knocking indeed. If a man were porter of Hellgate, he should have, Well, where was I? Oh my goodness, have old turning the key. Damn you, unicorn, get out of here. Knock, knock, knock. Who's there? In the name of Beelzebub. Here's a farmer that hanged himself on the expectation of plenty. Come in time, here you'll sweat for it. Ugh. Knock, knock. Ugh.
He walks unsteadily towards the door, through which we see a sliver of early morning light.
Who's there in the other devil's name? Faith, here's an equivocator that could swear in both the scales against either scale, yet could not equivocate to heaven. Come in, equivocator. Knock, knock, knock.
Exterior courtyard, colonnade, castle gate, dawn. We follow the porter to the heavy gate of the castle, from which the pounding emanates.
Who's there? Faith, here's an English tailor come hither for stealing out of a French hose. Come in, tailor, here you may roast your goose. Knock, knock. Ugh, never quiet. What are you? But this place is too cold for hell. Old devil porter and no further. I had thought to have let in some of all professions that go the primrose way to the everlasting bonfire. Anon! Anon!
Opening the gate.
I pray you remember the porter.
Macduff and I will definitely remember. Macduff and Lennox entering impatiently.
Was it so late, friend, ere you went to bed, that you do lie so late?
Faith, sir. We were carousing until the second cock. And drink, sir. It is a great provoker of three things.
Macduff and Lennox stride across the courtyard to the long colonnade that leads to the tower, trailing the porter.
What three things does drink especially provoke?
Marry, sir. Nose painting, sleep, and urine. Ugh. Lechery, sir, it provokes and unprovokes. It provokes the desire, but it takes away the performance. Therefore, much drink may be said to be an equivocator with lechery. It makes him, and it mars him. It sets him on, and it takes him off. It persuades him, and disheartens him. Makes him stand to, and not stand to. In conclusion, equivocates him in a sleep. And giving him the lie, leaves him.
I believe drink gave thee the lie last night.
That it did, sir.
No. Oh, sorry. I lost my place. Where are we?
36.
36. That it did, sir.
There we go. Entering the nest staircase, ground floor, Don, Macduff, and Lennox enter the dark at the foot of the stair and come face to face with Macbeth. He stands frozen in the dark, as if awaiting them.
Good morrow, both.
Is the king stirring, worthy Thane?
Not yet.
He did command me to call timely on him. I have almost slipped the hour.
Macbeth nods the direction of the stair.
I'll make so bold to call.
As Macduff brushes by, leaving Lennox and Macbeth alone after a pause.
Goes the king hence today?
He does. He did appoint so.
Lennox turn. Oh, that's shit. Just go.
Oh, the night has been unruly where we lay. Our chimneys were blown down, and as they say, lamentings hear it's their air, strange screams of death, and Prosper saying with accents terrible of dire combustion and confused events. New hash to thy woeful time. The obscure bird clamors the lifelong night. Some say the earth was feverous and did shake.
'Twas a rough night.
Oh, horror! Horror, horror! Tongue nor heart cannot conceive nor name thee.
What's the matter?
Macduff stumbles down the staircase.
Most sacrilegious murder hath broke ope the Lord's anointed temple and stole thence the life of the building.
What didst you say? The life?
Mean you his majesty?
Approach the chamber and destroy your sight with the new Gorgon. Do not bid me speak. See, and then speak yourselves.
Macbeth and Lennox bound up the stairs as Macduff clambers down with shouting.
Awake, awake, ring the alarm bell.
Just skipping right over me, that's okay. I don't matter. Interior Duncan's bedchamber intercut with courtyard bell tower. Tracking on Macbeth as they enter.
Murder and treason, Banquo and Donalbain. Malcolm, awake, awake.
Lennox makes for the king's bed. The groom opens his bleary eyes to watch Macbeth approach, a dark apparition.
Shake off this downy sleep, death's counterfeit, and look on death itself.
A bell begins to toll. Macbeth swipes up a dagger from the floor.
The great doom's in it. Malcolm, Banquo, up and see. As for your graves, rise up and walk like sprites to countenance this horror.
Oh, that was out of order. Okay. Behind Macbeth, the second groom has risen unsteadily with his sword and swings, but Macbeth ducks in just in time. The groom runs for the door and slips on the bloody floor, but Macbeth rises, planting a foot on his back, pushes him down the stairs. Interior Inverness staircase down. The groom tumbles down the stairs. Macbeth picks up the sword and follows him down.
Had I but died an hour before this chance, I had lived a blessed time. For from this instant there's nothing serious in mortality. All is but toys, renown, the grace is dead.
He raises the sword and turns the groom's body over with his foot, but the groom's eyes are open and dead.
Wine of life is drawn, and the mere lees is left this vault to brag of.
Interior Inverness staircase, ground floor, landing dawn. Lady Macbeth has arrived from the courtyard, Banquo and Macduff behind.
What's this business, that such a hideous trumpet calls to parley the sleepers of this house? Speak, speak!
Oh, gentle lady, 'tis not for you to hear what I can speak. The repetition in a woman's ear would murder as it fell. Oh, Banquo, Banquo! Our royal master's murdered!
Whoa! Alas! What, in our house?
Too cruel anywhere.
Malcolm and Donalbain are pushing their way forward. Behind Macbeth, Lennox is descending the stair from the king's chamber.
What is amiss?
You are and do not know. The spring, the head, the fountain of your blood is stopped. The very source of it is stopped.
Father is murdered.
Malcolm, we cannot hear you.
Oh, no wonder. By whom?
Those of his chamber, as it seemed, don't their hands and faces were all bandaged with blood.
Yet I do repent me of my fury that I did kill them.
Macduff is startled by this news.
Wherefore did you so?
Who can be wise, amazed, temperate, and furious, loyal and neutral in a moment? No man.
He fixes his gaze on Lady Macbeth, steps to the bottom of the staircase, and slowly approaches her. Banquo and Macduff give way.
The expedition of my violent love outran the pauser, reason. Here lay Duncan, his silver skin laced with his golden blood, and his gashed stabs looked like a breach in nature for ruin's wasteful entrance. There, murderers steeped in the colors of their trade, their daggers unmannerly breached with gore. Who could refrain that had a heart to love, and in that heart courages make love unknown?
She collapses.
Looks to the lady. And when we have our naked frailties hid that suffer an exposure, let us meet and question this most bloody piece of work, to know it further.
Interior balcony over the ground floor landing. Looking down from a small balcony over the ground floor landing, Ross watches as Macbeth carries Lady Macbeth away, leaving only Malcolm and Donalbain. They huddle together, thinking they are alone.
Why do we hold our tongues that may most lay claim to this argument for ours?
Let's away. Our tears are not yet brewed.
What will you do? Let's not consort with them. To show an unfelt sorrows in office which the false man does easy. I'll to England.
To Ireland I. Our separated fortunes shall keep us both the safer. Where we are, there's daggers in men's smiles. The near in blood, the nearer bloody.
This murderous shaft that shot hath not yet lighted, and our safest way is to avoid the aim. Therefore to horse. Let us not be dainty and fugitive.
Wind, the bell still tolls, clouds scud over the sun. Exterior the crossroads day, Ross waits by a stone wall near tumble-down stone shepherd's hut. Beyond him, in the distance, is Inverness. Before him, the road branches away in two directions into the fog. Finally, from Inverness, a rider approaches. Macduff. He draws near.
Ah, here comes the good MacDuff. How goes the world, sir, now?
Why, do you not?
Is't known who did this more than bloody deed?
Those that Macbeth has slain.
Alas the day, what good could they pretend?
They were stubborn. Malcolm and Donalbain, the king's 2 sons, are stolen away and fled, which puts upon them suspicion of him.
Then 'tis most like the sovereignty will fall upon Macbeth.
He is already named, and gone to Dunsinane to be invested.
Will you to Dunsinane?
No, cousin. I'll home to Fife.
Well, I will thither.
Well, may you see things well done then. There, adieu.
Turning his saddle back to look back at Ross as he takes his leftward fork.
Lest our old robes sit easier than mine.
I didn't hear that. Oh, sorry. Ross watches Macduff disappearing into the fog. Then up at the darkening sky, we hear a distant voice of an old man.
Score and 10 I can remember well. Within the volume of which time I have seen hours dreadful and things strange, but this sore night hath trifled for my knowings.
Ah, good father. Thou seest the heavens as troubled with man's act threatens the bloody stage. By the clock, 'tis day, and yet dark night strangles the traveling lamp. Is it night's predominance or the day's shame that darkness does the face of earth entomb when living light should kiss it? What say you, old man?
'Tis unnatural. Even like the deed that's done on Tuesday last, a falcon towering in a pride of place was by a mousing owl hawked and killed. Duncan's horse is a thing most strange and certain. Beauteous and swift, the minions of the race turned wild. Nature broke their stalls, flung out, contending against obedience, as they would war with mankind.
The clouds cover the sun with a grey pall.
'Tis said they ate each other.
The curtain falls, fade out. We hear footsteps approaching. Fade in, a shaft of light. Interior, a bare stage floor. Dunsinane arches day. Looking down on high from the spotlight snaps on, illuminating a bare circle on stage. Banquo, a small figure, alone, walks into the spotlight. Spotlight.
Thou hast it now. King, Cawdor, Glamis, all, as the weird women promised. And I fear thou playedst most foully for it. Yet it was said it should not stand in thy posterity, but that myself should be the root and father of many kings. If there come truth from them, as upon thee, Macbeth, their speeches shine, why, by the verities on thee made good, may they not be oracles as well, and set me up in hope?
We hear a trumpet sound from behind Banquo as we see the sunlight fade up on a column behind him. Exterior Dunsinane Castle, great hall day. We cut wide to see Banquo standing at the top of a stair outside the high arches of Dunsinane. Dunsinane. Can't see it, sorry.
No more.
Uh-oh. He turns to walk through the columns into the castle. Interior Dunsinane floor day. Banquo walks across the Dunsinane floor, followed by Fleance. Interior Dunsinane throne room day. A vast castle hall defied by receding shafts of sloping light from high windows like spotlight a Banquo stands in. Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, dressed in regal robes, approach from the background, accompanied by Ross and servants. Banquo turns to eye the hall to greet them.
Here's our chief guest.
If he had been forgotten, it had been as a gap in our great feast, an all thing unbecoming.
Tonight we hold a solemn supper, sir, and I'll request your presence. Ride you this afternoon?
Aye, my good lord.
We should have else desired your good advice, which still hath been both grave and prosperous in this day's council. But we'll take tomorrow. Is't far you ride?
As far, my lord, as will fill up the time twixt this and supper. Go not my horse the better, I must become a borrower of the night for a dark hour or twain.
Fail not our feast.
My lord, I will not.
We hear your bloody cousins are bestowed in England and in Ireland, not confessing their cruel parricide, filling their heroes with strange invention. But of that tomorrow. When therewithal we shall have cause of state craving us jointly. Hire you a horse. Adieu, until you return at night.
Our time does call upon us.
Cousin MacBeth watching Banquo leave as he calls out to him.
Goes Flairds with you?
Aye, my good lord.
I wish your horses swift and sure of foot, and so I do commend you to their backs. Farewell.
MacBeth turns to Ross as Banquo leaves.
Attend those men our pleasures?
They do, my lord.
He watches Banquo recede across the hall. Fleance runs up to join his father. Close on Fleance's hand as his father grasps it. Wind. Interior Dunsinane Tower, Oculus Chamber Day. A round room with an oculus in the ceiling that throws a circular beam of light on the floor, leaving the rest of the room in shadow. The door opens, MacBeth enters. Two men roughly dressed stand awkwardly, nervously against the wall. They neither offer a salutation nor receive one. MacBeth studies them as he crosses the room. Then, after a moment.
Was it not yesterday we spoke together?
It was.
I may not have assigned one, so please, your highness.
Well then, now have you considered of my speeches? No, that it was Banquo in times past which held you so under fortune, which you thought had been our innocent self. This I made good to you of our last conference, passed in probation with you, how you were born in hand, how crossed the instruments, who wrought with them and all things else that might to half a soul and to the notion crazed, say thus did Banquo.
You made it known to us.
I did so, and went further, which is now our point of second meeting.
The older murderer lowers his eyes and glances at his companion.
Do you find your patience so predominant in your nature that you can let this go? Are you so gospel to pray for this good man and for his issue, whose heavy hand hath bowed you to the grave and beggared yours forever?
We are men, my liege.
Aye. In the catalogue ye go for men. Now if you have a station in the file, not I the worst rank of manhood, say it, and I will put the business in your bosoms whose execution take your enemy off, grapples you to the heart and love of us, who wear our health so sickly in this life, which in his death were perfect.
I am one, my liege, whom the vile blows and buffets of the world have so incensed that I am reckless what I do to spite the world.
And I another, so weary with disaster, strove with fortune, that I would set my life on any chance to mend it or rid of it.
Both of you, no Banquo was your enemy.
True, my lord.
So is he mine, and in such bloody distance that very minute of his being thrusts against my nearest of life. And though I could with barrel-faced power sweep him from my sight and bid my will avouch it, yet I must not. For certain friends that are both his and mine, whose loves I may not drop, but wail his fall, who I myself struck down. And hence it is that I go to your assistance to make love, masking the business from the common eye for sundry weighty reasons.
We shall, my lord, perform what you command us.
Though our lives.
Your spirit shine through you. It must be done tonight, and something from the palace. Always thought that I required a clearness, and with him to leave no rubs nor botches in the work. Fleance, his son, that keeps him company, whose absence is no less material to me than is his father's, must embrace the fate of that dark hour.
We are resolved, my lord. Macbeth indicates the door.
Resolve yourselves apart.
The two men leave, the door shuts, and we hear their footsteps on the stair. Interior Dunsinane, a broad, winding staircase day. Lady Macbeth ascends in the company of Lady Vivian. The two murderers pass her on their way down, their heads tucked down to hide their faces.
Is Banquo gone from court?
Aye, madam, but returns again tonight.
Interior Dunsinane Tower, Oculus Chamber Day. She enters quietly. The room seems empty and is darker now. The wind has stopped. Looking round, she sees Macbeth. He sits on a low bench, leaning back against the wall, his face in shadow, close on Macbeth. His eyes are shut. He opens them slowly, but doesn't move.
How now, my lord? Why do you keep alone? Of sorriest fancies your companions making? Using those thoughts which should indeed have died with them they think on? Things without all remedy should be without regard. What's done is done.
We have scorched the snake, not killed it. She'll close and be herself whilst our poor Malice remains in danger of her former tooth. Better be with the dead, whom we to gain our peace have sent to peace, than on the torture of the mind to lie in restless ecstasy. Duncan is in his grave. After life's fitful fervour, he sleeps well. Treason has done his worst, nor steel, nor poison, malice domestic, foreign levy, nothing can touch him further.
Come on, gentle, my lord, sleek o'er your rugged looks. Be bright and jovial amongst your guests tonight.
Oh, full of scorpions is my mind, dear wife. Thou knowest that Banquo and his Fleance live, and in the royalty of nature reigns that which would be feared. 'Tis much he dares, and to that dauntless temper of his mind he hath a wisdom that doth guide his valour to act in safety. There is none but he whose being I do not fear.
You must leave this.
He chid the sisters when first they put the name of the king upon me, and bade them speak to him. Then, prophet-like, they hailed him father to the line of kings. Upon my head they placed the fruitless crown and put a barren sceptre in my grip, hence to be wrenched with an unlineal hand, no son of mine succeeding. If it be so, for Banquo issues have I filed my mind, for them the gracious Duncan have I murdered. Put rancours in the vessel of my peace, only for them in mine eternal jewel, given to the common enemy of man, to make them kings, the seeds of Banquo, kings.
But in them nature's copy's not to turn.
There's comfort yet, they are assailable. Then be thou Joseph. Ere the bat hath flown his cloistered flight, ere to black Hecate summons the shard-born beetle with his drowsy hums hath rung night's yawning peal, there shall be done a deed of dreadful note.
What's to be done?
Be innocent of the knowledge, dearest Chunk, till thou applaud the deed.
Macbeth reaches out his hand, an invitation.
Come. Sealing night, scarf up the tender eye of pitiful day, and with thy bloody and invisible hand cancel and tear to pieces that great bond which keeps me pale.
She walks forward, takes his hand, and he draws her close.
Light thickens, and the crow makes wings to the rooky wood. Good things of day begin to droop and drowse, while night's black agents to their prey do rouse. Thou marvelest at my words, but hold thee still. Things bad begun make strong themselves by ill.
Exterior crossroads dusk. The setting sun, the road stretches away to a distant Dunsinane. The two murderers crouch behind a corner of the tumble-down hut, looking up the rise of the hill from whence they came, distant footsteps. A hooded man rises up over the crest of the hill, walking towards us, one resting lightly one hand resting lightly on the handle of his belted sword. As the hooded man draws to a close-up, raises his finger to his lips, entreating silence, we see that it's Ross.
But who did bid thee join us? Macbeth.
He needs not our mistrust, since he delivers our offices from what we have to do to the direction just.
Then stand with us.
We hear a distant whinny of a horse. A light, a light! In the distance, the glow of a torch. The murderers separate, leaving the cover of the rock. Close in the torch, held aloft by Fleance. He sits on a horse that is led by Banquo.
Give us a light there, ho!
We hear a distant rumble of thunder. He sweeps the torch, searching the horizon. Light falls on the murderer, Scott, approaching the house.
It will be rain tonight.
Let it come down! The murderer Brian appears behind Banquo. Banquo wheels. The murderer Brian lunges with his sword. The horse rears. Banquo parries with the blade and with the upsweeping torch. Murderer Scott reaches for the bridle of the rearing horse as Fleance falls from the saddle to the ground. Banquo wheels again as the murderer Scott makes for the boy.
Fly, Fleance! Fly! Fly! Fly!
Fleance is up and running through the stone house into the field of high grass. Banquo swings the torch at the murderer Brian's head. He strikes, glancing a blow that sends him to the ground in a shower of sparks. Banquo reaches for the sword as is run through from behind. He turns and throws the torch at his assailant. He staggers forward and is run through again by the murderer Scott and kicked to the ground. Close in on the torch, burning in the road, a hand reaches in and picks up the torch. It is Ross. He approaches the winded murderers.
There's but one down. The sun is fled.
Looking out over the grass.
We have lost best half of our affair.
As the two murderers leave. Well, let's away and see how much is done. Ross unsheathes his sword and turns calmly away from the retreating men. We follow behind him as he walks slowly through the grass. One hand holds a torch aloft while the other sweeps the high grass in front of him with his sword. Thunder flows in on Fleance, lying on the ground, hiding face up to the sky. A raindrop spatters on his face. We hear Ross's footsteps approaching, Fleance's POV, looking up through the grass. The torchlight approaches as the grass is parted by the sword. Ross looms into the frame and looks down at Fleance. Thunder. A window spattered by driving rain. Interior Dunsinane throw room, banquet hall, night. Macbeth turns from the window to face the banquet hall full of roistering guests, taking on their seats. Appraising the guests, he approaches Lady Macbeth and draws her aside.
What sayest thou, that Macduff denies his person at our great bidding?
Did you send to him, sir?
You know your own degrees. Sit down. At first and last, the hearty welcome.
A servant approaches Macbeth and whispers in his ear as he leaves.
Anon, we'll drink and measure the table round.
Interior Dunsinane Tower, Oculus Chamber, night. As Macbeth enters, the two murderers stand inside, faces in the shadow. A column of rain beats down behind them from the Oculus. Macbeth, oh my God, approaches the older murderer, leans forward into the light. His face is wet with rain.
There's blood upon thy face.
'Tis Banquo's then.
'Tis better thee without than he within. Is he dispatched?
My lord, his throat is cut that I did for him.
Thou art the best of cutthroats. Yet he's good that did the like for Fleance. If thou didst it, thou art the non-parallel.
Most royal sir, Fleance has escaped. Macbeth is silent for a moment, staring at the murderers.
Then comes my fit again. I had else been perfect, whole as the marble, founded as the rock, and broad and general as the casing air. But now I am cabined, cribbed, confined, bound in...
The murderers exchange a worried glance, finally.
But Banquo's safe.
I'm a lord. Safe in a ditch, he bides, with 20 trench gashes in his head. At least a death to nature.
There the grown serpent lies. The worm that's fled hath nature that in time will venom breed. No teeth for the present. Get thee gone.
Interior Dunsinane through room banquet hall night. Macbeth enters the banquet hall from a dark, narrow hallway. Lady Macbeth rises from a table in the distance as he approaches her.
My royal lord, you do not give the cheer.
Lennox hands Macbeth a glass.
Sweet remembrancer.
He raises the chalice.
Now good digestion wait on appetite, and health on both.
Please, your highness, sit.
Here had we now our country's honour roofed, were the graced person of our Banquo present, whom may I rather challenge for unkindness than pity for mischance.
We hear a low beating sound.
His absence, sir, lays blame upon his promise. Please to your highness to grace us with your royal company.
Louder now, the sound has become wings. Looks towards the door to the hallway from whence he came, his glass aloft. Whoosh, something large and black flies from the doorway and is gone.
Here is a place reserved, sir.
No, a wounded figure holding a torch crosses the doorway and is gone. Banquo?
Here, my good lord. What is it that move your highness?
Macbeth is moving towards the doorway, dropping his chalice.
Which of you have done this?
What, my good lord?
Approaching the hallway.
Thou canst not say I did it.
He stops in the hallway framed by the door, bellowing at the apparition.
Never shake thy gory locks at me!
Ross, rising from the table in alarm.
Gentlemen, rise. His highness is not well.
Lady Macbeth hurries towards the hallway.
Sit, worthy friends. My lord is often thus, and hath been from his youth. Pray you keep seat. The fit is momentary. Upon a thought, he will be again well.
Interior Dunsinane hallway night. She enters the hallway where Macbeth stands, looking up at its length in the shadow of the departing figure disappearing around the corner.
Are you a man?
Aye, and a bold one that dare look on that which might appall the devil.
This is the very painting of your fear. This is the air-drawn dagger which you said led you to Duncan.
Prithee, see there!
He turns to look back.
Behold, look, lo! How say you?
But nothing is there, and Macbeth is off, moving down the hallway.
Why? What care I, if thou canst nod, speak too. If carnal houses and our graves must send those that we bury back, our monument shall be the moors of kites.
What? Quite unmanned in folly?
If I stand here, I saw him.
Fie, for shame.
Macbeth is moving with speed, Lady Macbeth following in the distance. Ross, Lennox, and others are following.
That when the brains were out, the man would die, and there an end. Now they rise again with 20 more mortal murders on their crowns.
The beating wings are louder now, accompanied by thumps and shrieks that seem to come from a room at the end of the hall.
This is more strange than such murder is.
My worthy lord, your noble friends do lack you.
Interior Dunsinane, apparition chamber and doorway, night. Macbeth turns a corner and flings open a door into a small room moonlit by a huge window. The shrieks and thumps are deafening there. Banquo, dripping blood, swings the torch at Macbeth as he jumps back.
Avaunt, and quit my sight! Let the earth hide thee, thy bones are marrowless!
As he leans away from another swing.
Thy blood is cold, thou hast no speculation in those eyes. Hence,
Close in on Lady Macbeth.
hence horrible shadow, unreal mockery, hence!
Lady Macbeth's POV. The room is empty save for Macbeth and a shrieking bird trapped in the room. Macbeth leans back as it flies past him and hints hits the wall. He dodges as it shrieks over him and crashes to the window. Back to Lady Macbeth, flanked now by Ross, Lennox, and the guests. She calmly enters the room and throws open the window. The bird flies out and flaps away into the moonlight. The sound of the beating wings fades away. All is still. Macbeth looks around the room as if seeing it for the first time. No one says a word, finally.
Why, so being gone, I am a man again.
For the first time noticing the assembled court.
Do not muse at me, most worthy friends. I have a strange infirmity, which is nothing to those that know me.
You have displaced the mirth, broke the good meeting with most admired disorder.
Macbeth sits on a low bench.
Can such things be and overcome us like a summer's cloud without our special wonder? You make me strange even to the disposition that I owe, when now I think you can behold such sights and keep the natural ruby of your cheeks when mine is blanched with fear.
Sights, my lord.
I pray you speak not. He grows worse and worse. Question enrages him. At once, good night. Stand not upon the order of your going, but go at once.
Damn it, Travis.
Good night, and bear health attend his majesty.
A good night to all.
Lords depart. Macbeth is watching him go.
Will have blood, they say. Blood will have blood. Stones have been known to move and trees to speak. Augurs and understood relations have by the magpies and crows and rooks brought forth the secretest man of blood.
Lady Macbeth looks out the window in the rising sun as she closes it.
What is the night?
Almost at odds with morning, which is which.
How sayest thou that Macduff denies his person at our great bidding?
Did you send to him, sir?
I hear it, by the way, and I will send. There's not a one of them, but in this house, I keep servant fed. I will tomorrow unto the weird sisters. More shall they speak. I am in blood stepped in so far that should I wade no more, returning were as tedious as go over. Strange things I have in head and that will it to hand, which must be acted ere they may be scanned.
Lady Macbeth picks up a small pitcher from a table and pours Macbeth a drink.
You lack the season of all natures. Sleep.
Macbeth watches as she carries the chalice to him.
Come. Will to sleep.
He drinks.
My strange and self-abuse is the initiate fear that wants hard use.
He lies down.
We are yet but young indeed.
Close in on Macbeth, he shuts his eyes. Fade out. We hear a tolling of a bell, and then a dark, distant voice. 'Tis time. 'Tis time. The rhythm of the bell turns to the sound of knocking. Fade in, enter Dunsinane, apparition chamber, night into dawn. Close in on Macbeth as he opens his eyes. He is alone in the dark. He turns his head to look over the window from whence the bird escaped. The black branch of a tree knocks at the window pane in the wind. Elsewhere in the room, something rustles. He turns to look up into the dark corner of the room. Something black but just visible is hunched up in a high alcove near the ceiling, looking down at him, unblinking. A witch. Macbeth slowly sits up. He looks at another corner. Another witch, very still, is perched on high on the ledge in the moonlight, also staring at him. Macbeth looks up slowly, directly overhead. A third witch at the apex of the ceiling is perched on an iron chandelier, staring directly down at us. Her wings slowly unfold. Finally, she speaks. By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. The wind rises and the knocking at the window grows louder.
How now, you secret black and midnight hags? What is't you do?
A deed without a name. Macbeth sits up slowly, his eyes on the witches.
I conjure you by that which you profess. However you come to know it, answer me. Even till destruction sicken, answer me to what I ask you.
Speak. Demand. Will answer. Say if thou'st rather hear it from our mouths or from our masters.
Call them. Let me see them.
The witch directly overhead starts to shake. She convulses as she is regurgitating something. Suddenly, she coughs off a bloody finger and holds it with her teeth. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Finger of a birth strangled babe, ditch delivered by a drab. She drops the finger from her mouth, which we watch the finger fall just as it hits the floor, turns into a sheet of water, and the finger sinks. Liver of blaspheming Jew, gall of goat and slips of you. Other things are splashing into the water now. Slivered in the moon's eclipse, nose of Turk and Tartar's lips. Round about the cauldron go, in the poisoned entrails throw. Close on the second witch, turning a small vial upside down. Here's the blood of a bat. Oh, put in that, put in that. For a charm of powerful trouble, like a hell broth boil and bubble. Come high or low thyself, and office deftly show. MacBeth looks into the water. A child's face is slowly rising from the depths to hover just beneath the surface.
Tell me, thou unknown power.
He knows thy thought. He hears his speech, but say thou not.
Macbeth, Macbeth, Macbeth. Beware Macduff. Beware the Thane of Fife.
Whatever thou art, for thy good caution, thanks. Thou hast halved my fear aright. But one word more.
The face is falling back into the depths to be replaced by that of another that rises to just below the surface. He will not be commanded. Here's another, more potent than the first.
Macbeth, Macbeth, Macbeth.
Had I 3 ears, I hear thee.
Be bloody, bold and resolute. Laugh to scorn the power of man. For none of woman born shall harm Macbeth.
This child too sinks back down.
Then live, Macduff, what need I fear of thee? And yet I'll make assurance double sure, and make a bond of fate. Thou shalt not live, that I may tell pale-hearted fear it lies in sleep in spite of thunder.
The third child is rising, this one wearing a crown.
What is this that rises like the issue of a king and wears upon his baby brow the round and top of sovereignty?
Listen, but speak not taught. The third child's face breaches the black water, which leaves blood dripping from his face.
Macbeth shall never vanquished be until great Birnam Wood to high Dunsinane Hill shall come against him.
The third child, wearing the crown, seeks away. As Macbeth leans over to watch it, the reflection of his face covers the child.
That will never be. Who can impress the forest, bid the tree unfix his earthbound root? Yet my heart throbs to know one more thing. Tell me, if your art can tell so much, shall Banquo's issue ever reign in the kingdom?
Seek to know no more. Under the knocking, we hear the sound of galloping horses approaching. Macbeth looks to the window. Dawn is beginning to break, the tree limb beating fast now in the rhythm of the knocking. Close on the floor as he rises, the water is receding around his feet to leave a dry floor. Interior, Dunsinane, apparition chamber, day. Wide on the room, now streaked with light. As he walks to the window, his feet leave bloody footprints on the floor. Macbeth looks out the window, then back up the ceiling.
Where are they? Gone?
The door bursts open and Lady Macbeth rushes in, followed by Lady Vivian, Lennox, Ross, and a messenger.
Saw you the Weird Sisters?
She looks nervously at Lennox, Lady Vivian, Ross, and the messenger. She waves them away.
No, my lord.
She shuts the door. Alone now, she reaches out to Macbeth, concerned, but he brushes her hand away.
Came they not by you?
No, indeed, my lord.
Infected be the air they ride, and damned all those that trust them.
He turns back to the window, looking out.
I did hear the galloping of horse. Who was to come by?
'Tis 2 or 3, my lord, that bring you word Macduff is fled to England.
Fled to England.
Aye, my good lord.
Time thou anticipatest my dread exploits. The flighty purpose never is o'erstock, unless the deed go with it. From this moment, the very firstlings of my heart shall be the firstlings of my hand.
Interior Dunsinane, hallway to the apparition chamber day. Outside the doorway, Lennox, Ross, and the messenger have left. Lady Vivian, lingering, puts her ear to the door.
Crown, and even now, to crown my thoughts with axe, be it thought and done.
Interior Dunsinane, apparition chamber. Back in the room, Macbeth is heading from the windows back to the door.
Castle of Macduff I will surprise, seize upon Fife, give to the edge or the sword his wife, his babes, and all unfortunate souls that trace him in his line. No boasting like a fool, this deed I'll do before this purpose cool.
He opens the door, startling Lady Vivian, who backs away. Macbeth brushes past her, waving his arm as he leaves.
But no more sights.
Lady Macbeth sits down where Macbeth was lying. She looks around the room almost apprehensively. The camera moves slowly to a close-up. She runs her hand through her hair, then sensing something, looks down at her hands. The strands of her hair have come away in her hand. She looks up. Lady Vivian in the doorway. They look at each other. Cut to exterior Dunsinane hallway day. Lennox walking with Ross.
Only I say, things have been strangely born. The gracious Duncan was pitied of Macbeth after he was dead, and the right valiant Banquo walked too late. Whom you may say, if to please you, fleance killed for fleance fled.
Men must not walk too late.
Who cannot want the thought how monstrous it was from Malcolm and for Donald man to kill their gracious father? Damned fact, how it grieved Macbeth. Did he not straight in pious rage the 2 delinquents tear that were the slaves of drink and thralls of sleep? Is not that nobly done?
Aye, and Donald Bane.
Aye, and wisely too, for 'twould have angered any heart alive to hear the men deny it, so that I'd say he has borne all things well, and I do think that he Duncan's sons under his key, as ain't please heaven he shall not, they should find what 'twere to kill a father.
I hear Macduff lives in disgrace. Sir, can you tell me where he bestows himself?
Malcolm, the son of Duncan, from whom this tyrant holds the due of birth, lives in the English court. There'th Macduff is gone to pray upon his aid, and this report hath so expirate Macbeth that he prepares for some attempt at war. Some holy angel fly to the court of England and unfold this message here he come, that a swift blessing may soon return to this our suffering country under a hand accursed.
Wind, the playful shrieks of children. Exterior Macduff's castle day. Cut to a dead bird, a sparrow or a wren. It lies in the grass, circle drawn in the dirt around it. Its feathers rustle in the wind. Close on a little boy, 11 or 12, as he stares down at the bird. The small boy bends down and picks up the bird. He looks down at the small bird in his hands. Jesus Christ. Exterior wide, looking across the hills. A castle off on a far bluff in silhouette. The children are running along the ridge towards the castle. Exterior Macduff's gate day, high, looking down over the castle gate. Interior Macduff's stairway, ground floor, day, inside the castle. As the children run in, followed by the nurse, little boy runs up a spiral staircase. Voices can be heard from coming from a room at the top of the stairs. The boy pauses outside and puts his ear to the door, listening.
What had he done to make him fly the land?
sorry, I was so angry. I just completely was not paying attention. You must have patience, madam.
He had none. His flight was madness.
Enter Macduff's landing day. Little boy hears something downstairs that takes his attention away. He looks back down the staircase to where the children are playing. Lady Macbeth's gentlewoman, Lady Vivian, is bustling in and talking to the children's nurse.
When our actions do not, our fears do make us traitors.
You know not whether it was his wisdom or his fear.
The little boy turns back, pushes open the door, and goes to stand beside his mother. Where's the little boy? There we go. Interior Macduff's bedchamber day.
Wisdom? To leave his wife, to leave his babes, his mansion, and his titles in a place from whence himself does fly? He loves us not. He wants the natural touch.
She puts her arm around her son.
For the poor wren, the most diminutive of birds, will fight, her young ones in her nest against the owl. All is the fear, nothing is the love, as little is the wisdom, where the flight so runs against all reason.
My dearest coz, I pray you school yourself, but for your husband he is noble, wise, judicious, and best knows the fits of the season.
Jesus, Travis, do you know what a Raggedy Ann looks like?
Yes, I used to own one.
Lord. Okay. Oy. I dare not speak much further before Travis fucks something else up, but cruel are the times when we are traitors and do not know ourselves, when we hold rumor from what we fear, yet know not what we fear, but float upon a wild and violent sea, each way and none.
He makes for the door, tousling little boy's hair on the way out.
My pretty cousin, blessing upon you.
Fathered he is, and yet he's fatherless.
I am so much a fool. Should I stay longer, it would be my disgrace and your discomfort. I take my leave at once.
Ross leaves. As he descends, we hear the laughing and shouting children downstairs. Lady Macduff turns to the little boy and takes him by the shoulders.
Sirrah, your father's dead. And what will you do now? How will you live?
As birds do, mother.
What, with worms and flies?
With what I get, I mean. And so do they.
Poor bird. Thou'dst never fear the net nor lime, the pitfall nor the gin.
Why should I, mother? Poor birds, they are not set for. My father is not dead, for all your saying.
Yes, he is dead. How wilt thou do for a father?
Nay, how will you do for a husband?
Why, I can buy 20 at any market.
Then you'll buy him to sell again.
Thou speaks with all thy wit, and yet, faith, with wit enough for thee.
Is my father a traitor, mother?
Aye, that he was.
What is a traitor?
Why, one that swears and lies.
And be all traitors that do so.
Everyone that does so is a traitor, must be hanged.
And must they all be hanged that swear and lie?
Everyone.
Who must hang them?
Why, the honest men.
And the liars and swearers are fools, for there are liars and swearers enough to beat the honest men and hang up them.
The children's nurse and Lady Vivian are anxiously approaching the doorway, apparently with news.
Oh, God help thee, poor baby.
Milady!
Lady Macduff holds up her hand, indicating they should wait.
But how wilt thou do for a father?
If he were dead, you'd weep for him. If you would not, it were a good sign that I should quickly have a new father.
Oh, poor prattler, how thou talk'st.
She looks up at Lady Vivian, who approaches.
Bless you, fair dame. I am not to you known, though in your state of honor I am perfect. I doubt some danger does approach you nearly. If you will take a homely maid's advice, be not found here, hence with your little ones. To fright you thus, methinks I am too savage. To do worse to you were fell cruelty, which is too nigh your person.
We hear horses approaching. Lady Macduff moves to the window and looks out. Lady Vivian exits.
Whither should I fly? I've done no harm.
Exterior Macduff State Gate Day. Horsemen are passing under the open gate.
But I remember now I am of this earthly world where to do harm is often laudable, to do good sometimes accounted dangerous folly. Why then, alas, do I put up that womanly defense that I say I've done no harm?
Jesus Christ, my script did that again. Interior Macduff's bedchamber. We hear a loud clatter from downstairs. The playful shrieks of the children have suddenly turned to shrieks of fear. Smoke is billowing up the staircase into the room, heavy footsteps running up the stairs. Lady Macduff grabs her son and runs to the landing. Interior Macduff's landing day. Two rough faces are emerging from the smoke near the top of the staircase.
What are these faces?
Where is your husband?
Hope in no place so unsanctified where such as thou mayst find him.
He's a traitor.
The boy breaks away from his mother and rushes at the murderer.
Thou liest!
What, you egg?
What an insult. The murderer grabs him by the wrist with his right hand and flings him to the smoke down the stairs. Boiled eggs. Lady Macduff screams and runs toward her son, plunging down the stairs. We follow her. She disappears into the smoke. The sound of mayhem, fire, and shrieking children fades out to leave only the wind. Exterior, an alley of trees. A Burnham Wood day. The smoke has become fog, and out of the fog emerge two faces walking towards us. Through an alley of trees they are Malcolm and Macduff.
Let us seek out some desolate place, and there weep our sad bosoms empty.
Let us rather hold fast the mortal sword, and like good men bestride our downfall birthdom. Each new morn, new widows howl, new orphans cry, new sorrows strike heaven on the face, that it resounds as if it felt with Scotland and yelled out like syllable of dollar.
The fog behind them is blowing away.
What you have spoke, it may be so perchance. This tyrant, whose sole name blisters our tongues, was once thought honest.
We see Russ approaching from the direction of the camp.
See who comes here.
My ever gentle cousin, welcome hither.
I know him now. Good God betimes remove that means that makes us strangers.
Sir, amen.
Stand Scotland.
And Scotland.
Oh, sorry.
My fault.
Sorry, Macduff.
And Scotland where it did.
Alas, poor country almost afraid to know itself. Girl, this is not your show. It cannot be called to our mother, but to our grave, where nothing but who knows nothing is once seen to smile, where sighs and groans and shrieks that rend the air are made, not marked, where violent sorrow seems a modern ecstasy.
Oh, relation too nice and yet too true.
What's the newest grief?
That of an hour's age doth hiss the speaker, each minute teems a new one.
How does my wife?
Why, well.
And all my children?
Well, too.
The tyrant has not battered at their peace?
No, they were well at peace when I did leave 'em.
No. Be not muddled with your speech. How goes it?
When I came hither to transport the tidings of which I have heavily borne, there ran a rumor of many worthy fellows that were out, which was to my belief witness the rather for that I saw the tyrant's power afoot. Now's the time of help. Your eye in Scotland would create soldiers, make our women fight to doff their dire distresses.
Be it their comfort we are coming thither. Gracious England hath led us good seaward in 10,000 men, a stronger and better soldier none that Christendom give out.
Would I could answer this comfort with the like, but I have words that would be howled out in the desert air where hearing should not latch them.
What concern they? The general cause, or is it a grief due to some single breast?
No mind that's honest, but in it shares some woe, though the main part pertains to you alone.
If it be mine, keep it not from me. Quickly, let me have it.
Let not your ears despise my tongue forever, which shall possess them with the heaviest sound that ever yet they heard.
I guess at it.
Your castle is surprised, your wife and babes savagely slaughtered. To relate the manner were on the quarry of these murdered deer, to add the death of you.
Merciful heaven. What man gives sorrow words? The grief that does not speak whispers to the o'erfraught heart and bids it break.
My children too?
Wife, children, servants, all that could be found.
My wife killed too.
I have said.
Be comforted. Let us make medicines of our great revenge to cure this deadly grief.
All my pretty ones. Did you say all? Oh, hell kite. All? What, all my pretty chickens and their dam at one fell swoop?
Dispute it like a man.
I shall do so. But I must also feel it as a man. I cannot but remember such things that were most precious to me. Did heaven look and would not take their part? Sinful Macduff, they were all struck for thee. Not that I am, not for their own demerits, but for mine, fell slaughter on their souls. Heaven rest them now.
Be this the whetstone of your sword. Let grief convert to anger, blunt not the heart, enrage it.
I could play the woman with mine eyes and braggart with my tongue, but gentle heavens cut short all intermission. Front to front, bring thou this fiend of Scotland and myself. Within sword's length set him. If he scape, heaven forgive him too.
We hear a rumble of thunder fade out, the sound of rain beating down on the stone. The sound of the rain fades away to leave only the sound of slow rhythmic thumping fade in. Exterior Dunsinane courtyard night, a drop of silvery water backlit by the moon drops rhythmically into the puddle of stones of the palace. Courtyard, each raindrop a deep accented thump. The cloud moves slowly across the face of the moon. We still hear the rhythmic thumping of the raindrop, and under it the voice of the doctor.
When was it she last walked?
Interior Dunsinane chamber, intercut archway landing night. Close on Lady Macbeth, laying in the dark, eyes open. A shadow moves across her face at the same speed as the cloud across the moon.
Since His Majesty went into the field, I have seen her rise from her bed, throw her nightgown upon her, unlock her closet, take forth paper, fold it, write upon it, read it, afterwards seal it, and again return to bed, yet all this while in a most fast sleep.
She rises from her bed.
Is this something agitation besides her walking and other actual performances? What at any time have you heard her say?
Interior Dunsinane staircase, archway, landing, window, night. Close on Lady Macbeth's bare feet, descending assumes stone spiral staircase.
That, sir, which I will not report after her, neither to you nor anyone, after having no witness to confirm my speech.
Angled up the staircase, Lady Macbeth is approaching down the staircase. She holds a candle that casts a shadow up into the stone walls of the staircase behind her.
Lo you, here she comes. This is her very guise, and upon my life fast asleep.
Close on her doctor, and Lady Macbeth's nurse standing on the landing watching her approach.
Observe her, stand close.
You see, her eyes are open.
We pivot with her as she passes, and we watch her disappear as she descends further.
Aye, but their senses are shut.
How came she by that light?
The doctor and the nurse move to a window on the landing to look out to the courtyard.
Why, it is stood by her. She has light by her continually. 'Tis her command.
Exterior Dunsinane courtyard intercut with courtyard window. High angle looking down onto the moonlit courtyard as Lady Macbeth emerges. She puts the taper down on the ground and rubs her hands together.
What is it she does now? Look how she rubs her hands.
It is an accustomed action with her to seem thus washing her hands. I have known her continue in this a quarter of an hour.
Yet, here's a spot.
Hark! She speaks.
In the courtyard, Lady Macbeth walks to the overhang where the rain drops. She holds out her hand and is about to say the thing.
Out.
Son.
Damn spot. Out, I say. 1, 2. Why, then 'tis time to do it. Hell is murky. Fie, my lord, fie. A soldier and afeard? What need we fear who knows it, when none can call our power to account? Yet who would have thought the old man to have so much blood in him?
Still rubbing her hands.
The Thane of Fife had a wife. Where is she now? What? Will these hands ne'er be clean? No more of that, my lord. No more of that. You mar all with this starting.
The doctor looks at the nurse and alone.
Go to. You have known what you should not.
Has spoke what she should. I am sure of that. Heaven knows what she has known.
The doctor and the nurse move away from the window. Back to Lady Macbeth, she looks around.
Here's the smell of the blood still. All the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hand.
Breaking the rhyme, a drop of rain hits her hand and streaks it with blood.
Oh, oh, oh.
Lady Macbeth turns from the tree to walk back to the castle. Interior Dunsinane staircase, archway, landing, intercut courtyard, night, as the doctor and the nurse are taking their position near the staircase.
Outside there is. The heart is sorely charged.
This disease is beyond my practice, yet I have known those which have walked in their sleep who have died only in their beds. God forgive us all. Look after her. Remove her from the means of all annoyance, and still keep her eyes upon her.
But they see Lady Macbeth approaching the landing on the staircase.
Wash your hands, put on your nightgown, look not so pale. I tell you yet again, Banquo's buried. He cannot come out on his grave.
Foul whispering are abroad. Unnatural deeds do breed unnatural troubles. Infected minds to their deaf pillows will discharge their secrets. More needs she, the divine, than the physician. Will she go now to bed?
Directly.
Lady Macbeth starts to climb the stairs.
To bed, to bed. There's a knocking at the gate. Come, 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 come. Give me your hand. What's done cannot be undone. To bed, to bed, to bed.
Her eyes wide open as she looks directly at the doctor on the landing.
To bed.
Fade out, the rhythm of the thumping comes, dull, thudding rhythm of marching feet. A bell begins to toll. The blackness of a single word fades in. Tomorrow. The tolling of the bell comes, the rhythmic sound of steel biting into the wood. Fade in, exterior, alley of trees. The Burnham Wood day.
What wood is this before us?
The wood of Burnham.
Their POV, the woodsman is chopping down a small tree, making a small pile of firewood.
The English power is near, led on by Malcolm, his cousin Seward, and the good Macduff. Revenge is burn in them.
What does the tyrant?
Great Dunsinane he strongly fortifies. Some say he's mad. Others that lesser hate him do call it valiant fury. But for certain he cannot buckle his distempered cause within the belt of rule.
Now, does he feel his secret murders sticking on his hands? Those he commands move only in command, nothing in love. Now does he feel his title hang loose about him, like a giant robe upon a dwarfish thief?
Interior Dunsinane throne room banquet hall day. Way-faced a servant kneeling.
The devil damn thee, black, thou cream-faced loon. Where goest thou, that goose look?
There is 10,000.
Macbeth, surrounded by retainers and attendants, is sitting on his throne.
Geese. Villain.
Soldiers, sir.
Go prick thy face and overread thy fear, thou lily-livered boy. What soldiers, Patch? Death of thy soul, those linen cheeks of thine are counselors to fear. What soldiers, Wayface?
The English force, so please you.
Take thy face hence.
As Wayface leaves,
Satan, I am sick at heart when I behold Satan, I say.
rising to his feet.
This push will cheer me ever, or deceit me now. I have lived long enough. My way of life is fallen into the sere, the yellow leaf.
He pushes his way through the courtiers who surround him.
And that which should accompany old age as honor, love, obedience, troops of friends, I must not look to have. Satan.
What's your
Goes
grace's
just
pleasure?
entering the room, followed by the doctor.
What is your grace's pleasure?
What news more?
All is confirmed, my lord, which was reported.
I'll fight till from my bones my flesh be hacked. Give me my armor.
'Tis not needed yet.
I'll put it on. Send out those horses, scur the country round, hang those that talk of fear. Give me mine armor.
An attendant appears who stops to strap the upper cannon of his armor into Macbeth's arms.
How does your patient, doctor?
Not so sick, my lord, as she is troubled with thick-coming fancies that keep her from her rest.
Cure her of that. Canst thou not minister to a mind diseased, pluck from the memory a rooted sorrow, raise out the written troubles of the brain, and with some sweet, oblivious antidote cleanse the stuffed bosom of that perilous stuff which weighs upon the heart?
Therein the patient must minister to himself.
Throw physic to the dogs, I'll none of it.
Seton, the doctor, and the attendant with the armor trailing.
Come, put mine armor on. Satan, send out.
Seton is attempting to armor Macbeth is batted away. Macbeth exits the throne room and turns up the rampart stairs. Interior Dunsinane rampart stairs stay.
Bring it after me. I will not be afraid of death and bane till Burnham Forest come to Dunsinane.
A clap of thunder, the sun. A thundercloud moves across the sun as the day fades into the gloomy cast. Cut to interior Dunsinane, Lady Macbeth's bedchamber day. Lady Macbeth's bedchamber as a shadow slowly moves across the room, close overhead on Lady Macbeth lying on her bed as the shadow moves slowly over her face. We hear the distant sound of knocking. She opens her eyes. Cut to exterior, alley of trees, Burnham Wood day, closing on an axe, biting into the bark of a small tree. We are back in the forest. Continued. Malcolm sits astride his horse, Macduff and many other horsemen around him. Malcolm looks up at the darkening sky. The wind picks up and the leaves begin to fall.
Let every soldier hew him a bow and bear it before him. Thereby shall we shadow the number of our hosts and make discovery ere in report of us.
It shall be done.
We learn. Oh, I'm sorry.
Travis. We learn no other but the confident tyrant keeps still in Dunsinane and will endure our setting down before it.
'Tis his main hope, for where there is advantage to be given, both more or less have given him the revolt, and unserved with him but constrained things whose hearts are absent too.
The thunder rolls again. The sound of the knocking, hundreds of trees being chopped down, grows louder. Interior Dunsinane, Lady Macbeth's bedchamber. Back to the dark bedchamber as Lady Macbeth rises from her bed, her bare feet as they touch the floor. Slowly, she crosses the room towards us. Cut to exterior Dunsinane ramparts. Macbeth walking out into the ramparts, thunder and the howling wind.
Hang out our banners on the outward walls. The cry is still, they come. Our castle's strength will laugh a siege to scorn. Here let them lie till famine and then age eat them up.
Interior Dunsinane staircase, archway landing day, tracking close on Lady Macbeth's bare feet, walking across the stone floor. They reach the edge of the stair and stop. At the bottom of the stair, Ross is making his way through the retainers and attendants who stream around him, fleeing the castle. He pauses at the bottom of the tower stair to look up. The lone figure in silhouette stands at the top, not moving. Ross starts to climb the stair toward Lady Macbeth. Exterior Dunsinane ramparts, back to Macbeth on the ramparts, searching for the horizon.
Were they not forced with those that should be ours, we might have met them dareful, beard to beard, and beat them backward home.
Exterior, an alley of trees, Burnham Wood day, back to Malcolm on horseback. Thunder. Excuse me, and belching apparently. He looks to the sky, leaves are falling. Beyond him, we see the cut of saplings in the forest moving with him. He turns to seaward and Macduff.
You, worthy cousin, lead our first battle. Worthy Macduff and we shall take upon what else remains to do.
Well, one of you do it.
Do we but find the tyrant's power tonight, let us be beaten if we cannot fight, towards which advance the war.
Sorry, I'm a dummy and I gave you both that. Interior Dunsinane staircase, archway, landing day. It's still Travis's fault. Back to Ross, slowly climbing the stair. Lady Macbeth. People are fleeing the castle, but take no notice of them. Close on Lady Macbeth, eyes open, but seemingly unaware as Ross reaches the landing. They are now alone. He looks in her unseen eyes and then slowly walks around her, never taking his eyes off of her. Exterior, edge of valley of trees, Burnham Woods. Back to Malcolm, reining in his horse, the leaves still falling. Dunsinane is in the distance.
Now near enough. Your leafy screens throw down and show like those you are.
Make all our trumpets speak. Give them all breath, those clamorous harbingers of blood and death.
Exterior Dunsinane ramparts. Back to Macbeth on the ramparts. We hear the sound of trumpets carried on the wind, mixing with the distant cry of women coming from the castle as he turns his head towards the sound.
What is that sound?
Seaton at the ramparts door, he turns to look down the long spiral of the staircase just inside.
It is the cry of women, my lord.
Macbeth is moving towards the ramparts doors. Seaton leaves to investigate.
I've almost forgot the taste of fears. The time has been my senses would have cooled to hear a night shriek, and my fell of hair would at a dismal treatise rouse and stir as life were in.
Seaton is returning to the doorway.
Wherefore was that cry?
The queen, my lord, is dead.
Macbeth approaches him to look down. Interior Dunsinane staircase, archway landing. A tiny figure is sprawled near the bottom of the stair, head first, down.
She should have died hereafter. There would have been a time for such a word.
We pull Macbeth down the staircase as he descends. The wind rages behind him.
Tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle, life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Suddenly, a voice from above.
Gracious my lord.
Macbeth turns to look up the stairs to the ramparts. The messenger stands in the doorway. The wind is howling.
I should report that which I say I saw, but know not how to do it.
Well, say, sir.
I looked toward Burnham, and anon methought the wood began to move.
Liar and slave.
Let me endure your wrath, if it be not so. Within this 3 mile may you see it coming. I say a moving grove.
Macbeth is moving towards a window on the staircase, landing across from the throne room.
If thou speakest false, upon the next tree thou shalt hang alive till famine cling thee.
The window blows open, and with a great gust of wind, a blizzard of silvery leaves blows into the castle, dancing with the air around him. Macbeth turns from the window to watch the leaves blow across the landing, and in it through the open doors of the throne room opposite.
Fear not till Burnham Wood comes to Dunsinane, and our wood comes toward Dunsinane.
The wind is blowing harder. He turns to call up the staircase, but the messenger has disappeared.
Arm and out. If this which he avouches dost appear, there is no flying hence nor tarrying here.
Then, turning to call down the stairs.
Ring the alarm bell. Blow, wind, come rack. At least we'll die with harnesses on our back.
The sound of the fleeing inhabitants of the castle fades away, leaving only the wind and silence. Interior Dunsinane Castle, throne room, banquet hall. Macbeth turns again to walk across the landing to the throne room. Thousands of leaves are blowing now across the floor, curling around the columns of the throne room as if it were the bed of a forest. Wading through the leaves, he reaches the end of the room and sits heavily on the throne. The castle is silent now. Only the wind howls, which lifts the leaves in the eddies of the floor. Finally, we hear the footsteps approaching on the stairs, but Macbeth does not stir. Across the room, a lone figure enters and stands in the doorway, but Macbeth takes no notice. It is Seward.
What is thy name?
I'll be afraid to hear it.
No, though thou callest thyself a hotter name than any is in hell.
My name's Macbeth.
The devil himself could not pronounce a title more hateful to mine ear.
No, nor more fearful.
Thou liest, abhorred tyrant. With my sword I'll prove the lie thou speakest.
Macbeth rises, smiling. He opens his arms wide to show he is unarmed.
Thou wast born of woman.
Seward advances, his weapon raised with both hands. Macbeth walks calmly towards him, hands at his side. As they draw close to Macbeth, raises his arms, palms out, almost supplicating. Suddenly, Seward chops the blade down on Macbeth, but Macbeth leans nimbly back, and the steel just grazing the front of his armor. Wheeling the blade, Seward swings at his head. Macbeth turns his head away, and the blade, just missing him, and kicks Seward to the ground. The sword clatters out of his hand and skates across the floor. As Seward rises to his feet, Macbeth scoops up the sword. He heaves it back to Seward. Seward picks up the sword, taking few unsteady backward steps as Macbeth advances. Macbeth touches his cheek where the blade must have grazed him. His hand comes away with blood. He looks at it, still advancing, and then suddenly flings the blood at Seward, spattering his face. Seward rears back reflexively, raising his sword, but Macbeth's hand is already on his wrist, wrenching it away. Wide on the room as Macbeth wheels with the sword, and then, in one arching blow, brings it down on Seward's head, unseaming him from the neck to the chaps. Ouch. Exterior Dunsinane Ramparts Day. The door to Ramparts. Outside, the wind is howling and the sky is dark. Macbeth enters the dead man's sword and walks out. He tips the sword up from him, looking at the blade. Blood drips from the glinting steel.
Why should I play the Roman fool and die on mine own sword? Whiles I see lives, the gashes do better upon them.
A voice from behind.
Turn, hellhound, turn!
Macbeth turns slowly to look at Macduff, framed in the doorway.
Of all men else I've avoided thee. Get thee back. My soul is too much charged with blood of thine already.
I have no words. My voice is in my sword. Thou bloodier villain than terms can give thee out.
Let fall thy blade on vulnerable crests. I bear a charmed life which must not yield to one of woman born.
Despair thy charm, and let the angel whom thou still hast served tell thee Macduff was from his mother's womb untimely ripped.
Macbeth stares at Macduff, a dark apparition in the doorway.
Cursed be that tongue that tells me so.
As he turns his back on Macduff to look out over the parapet.
I'll not fight with thee.
Then yield thee, coward.
Shaking his head, then resolved.
I will not yield to kiss the ground before young Malcolm's feet.
He turns to face Macduff again, raising his sword.
and to be baited with the rabble's curse, though Burnham would be come to Dunsinane, and thou opposed, being of no woman born, yet I will try the last.
As Macduff charges.
Lay on, Macduff, and damned be him that first cries, hold, enough!
Their blades come together with a mighty sound, wide on the parapet as they fight with a marker and a sword. Is that what is that? Oh, that's your phone. Uh-huh. Close in on Macbeth as he swings sword, glancing up at Macduff's armor. Yes, hello. Yes. A blow to the head sends Macduff to the ground. Macduff rolls as the blade swings down, glancing off the stones. Another phone call comes in asking if you need a new warranty. Macduff rises to his knees, a slashing blow to his lace, and Macbeth staggering back. Macduff is on his feet again. He swings a sword back, but narrowly misses. As Macbeth snaps his head back, the motion sends his crown flying off, closing on the crown, hitting the stones and spinning next to the parapet wall. Off balance, parapet. Macbeth twists and staggers back as he sweeps the crown up and places it back on his head. As he turns back, just as Macduff's blade swings through the air, it severs his head, sending it over the parapet. Exterior base of the Dunsinane Ramparts stay. The water of the moat at the base of the castle wall as Macbeth's head hits the water. Suddenly, the wind is stopped. The head sinks slowly down, face up, wearing the crown, just as the third apparition did. Two hands reach in and grasp the severed head, pulling it out of the water. The head is hoisted high over the man's head. It is Ross.
Behold where stands the usurper's cursed head. Hail the King of Scotland!
He is surrounded by Malcolm and his army at the base of the castle.
Hail, King of Scotland!
Hail,
King
of
King of
Scotland!
Scotland!
Close, Malcolm. Jesus, Travis of late. Sitting astride his horse as the crown is handed up to him, Malcolm lifts the crown high up over his head. We follow it up and then keep rising to find the sun just as the thunder clouds roll away, fade out. Slow fade in. Exterior, the crossroads day. Sunlight on high, waving grass, clothes on a coin, being pressed into an old man's hand. The same man we saw earlier in the shepherd's hut. He looks up at the man mounted on a horse who is leaned down to pay him. It's Ross. Wider, it shows that we are near the grassy field where Banquo was murdered. The old man turns and disappears into a small stone hut while Ross waits. Continue. After a beat, he emerges leading a young boy by the hand. It is Fleance. Taking the boy's hand, Ross swings him up to straddle the horse in front of him. Exterior rise beyond the crossroads. Wider as Ross and the boy gallop directly away, across the field of grass towards the distant horizon. We hold as the horse grows small. Really, Starbuck? The galloping hoofbeats recede. Suddenly, just beyond the horse, a huge flock of startled crows lift into the sky. They shriek. They rise higher and higher, more and more, until the sky turns black. The curtain falls. The end. Yay! Oh my God, everyone did a wonderful job. Thank you if you were watching. Have a good night. And we're gonna hit stop.